every single Christian in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd century believed that it was the body and blood of Christ. I mean, you mentioned St. Ignatius of Antioch. For the people that are viewing, I mean, I know your audience is very smart, but Ignatius of Antioch is a disciple of St. John.
Right.
Like, it's worth just pointing that out.
Yeah.
This is not some churchman in the medieval, age that brought this up. This is a disciple of the apostles, a contemporary of the apostles, who was alive when the Gospels were being written.
Right.
Right. And he's saying that not only is it the body and blood of Christ, but he says, as you said, they're heretics. They're not even Christian for denying that, right? I'm not saying that Cliff and Stuart aren't Christian, but that was the extreme. And then you have St. Irenaeus and St. Athenagoras, St. Justin Martyr, and these are all the first 200 years of the church. His response is basically he started trivializing and almost mocking the Eucharist, talking about, so you think he took his kneecap and dipped it in the blood coming out of his arm?
When he stretched out his hand to grab the bread, to dip it in the wine, then he was taking a piece of his kneecap, dipping it in some of the blood that perhaps was pouring out of his arm, and then eating himself, ingesting himself.
And this is exactly why in John 6, when the disciples grumbled when they heard about Christ saying this, he said, are you not going to believe when you see the Son of Man ascending to heaven? And then he says in the next verse, he says, the flesh profits nothing, it's the spirit that gives life. What's he saying? He's saying, look, if you're going to disbelieve me when I tell you that this is my body and this is my blood, are you going to disbelieve me when I ascend into heaven? Right? So to those that are saying that the Eucharist is a metaphor according to John 6, you're going to have to say first that the ascension is a metaphor. Right. And second off, what does Christ say? He says, the flesh profits nothing, the spirit gives life. He's saying, don't think of this in a carnal way. Because when the people at that time in John 6 heard him say, whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has everlasting life, the first thing that popped in their head is cannibalism.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of evangelical influencers that have been accusing us of being cannibals for this. Right. The flesh profits nothing, meaning this carnal outlook profits nothing. This is a mystical and spiritual mystery that in a way in which we cannot scientifically ascertain. Right? When I look at the bread and I look at the wine, it looks like bread and wine. It smells like bread and wine. It tastes like bread and wine. Right? To the senses, it has those accidents. Right. But we know mystically, in a way which I cannot describe to you, but in a way that's possible for God, it is truly his body and blood. Right? And so Stuart seemed to not understand that.